I made a video about the DJI Avata 3 months ago, okay? And I've been using it ever since. Now, I got a lot of questions from you guys regarding the use of this drone. Is it possible to use it for real estate? Is it possible to use it professionally? And the question, I think the question that you might be asking yourself is, can you use this drone to make money? That is a good question, isn't it? Throughout this video, I'm going to show you a bunch of examples and I'm going to talk over it to tell you what are my pros, my cons in that specific scenario, if it went well or not, so that you know what you can use this drone for. I'm sure there's a million other ways and scenarios where you can use the Avata, but these are a bunch to give you some examples. The first one we're going to take here is going through a car. So I went through this car, this is a Lexus, and it was in France. And I decided to try out what would happen if you do that. One thing that I noticed is that this drone obviously makes a lot of wind. So if you're going to be using it indoor, make sure there's no papers laying around that can fly off, because that has been the case many times. Be it dust, papers, particles, things, they just fly off, okay? So I went through this car. It was great. I used a motion controller. It went fine. The drone didn't have any problem whatsoever, and I could control it perfectly. So if you want to use this, for example, for a car commercial or this kind of video, you can do so. In this next example here, we're going to go through a little chalet, okay? A little wooden house. So first I went through the first floor. And so what I did is I looked around, I prepared the window, which I'm going through here. And then I went around the living room. This was at a friend's house. And I could fly around without too many problems. Then I flew out. I went to the upper floor and I flew through the rooms, which was also very, very easy. So if you are planning on going through a house for, let's say, real estate, as long as it is not a house full of metal beams or things that would cut the signal drastically, you should not have a problem doing so. Let's take up the next example here. This was at a place where they make statues, they're artists, and they wanted to have a little video before the open house that they were holding that day. So I went around the park, close to the trees, around the statues, you know, close to the floor, and it was a breeze, okay? Had no problem. I've been using it to do that, and that is a kind of example where you can use this drone to make money. In this next example here, I was at a fun park close by where I live. This is a kids' fun park, and I wanted to try to see how this would behave in a place that is more of a warehouse that has some metal beams around and stuff like that, and see if the signal would be fine. So this is the first time where I ran into a problem. That is, when the drone doesn't have GPS signal anymore, it slows down. It tells you you have no more GPS signal, slow down. And the drone will not accelerate when you press the trigger of the motion controller as well or as much as it would when you have GPS signal. So it starts slowing down all of a sudden. And the problem is when you go to an area where there is GPS signal again, then your drone will start accelerating at normal speed out of the blue. And the problem with that is you never know when that's going to happen. So it didn't put me at ease that much. I didn't run into any wall. I didn't have any problems like that. I had my finger ready to press the pause button, which is a good advantage of using a DJI drone. And overall, I was able to go through windows. I was able to go through, you know, the jumping things and go around and have some fun and really film from the viewpoint of a child going around and playing in those games or in those, you know, activities. That is something, another example where you could make money using this for, in this case, a kids' fun park. In this next example here, we're going to talk about a Toyota dealer's event that I was asked to come to take photos, and I decided to take the Avata with me so I could take also some videos and test it out for you guys, okay? So I noticed it was totally fine. In terms of noise, people did not mind it that much, strangely enough, because it is kind of loud, but I could go around, and once people saw and noticed that I was the one piloting the drone and they saw the drone, they were like waving to the drone and, you know, they were totally fine with it. And I could really go around people, and that was an event where there was quite some people. So knowing that you can do that with the motion control without being like a professional experienced FPV pilot is a good thing. In fact, I then went on the parking lot to show all the cars that were there. Being a Toyota event, I thought it would be cool to show everyone that was parked there. It was not only Toyotas though. Anyway, and then I went back into the tent, flew around, flew up and down, and it was actually very enjoyable as a pilot because I had no issues whatsoever, and also as a receiving part, which is the Toyota dealer that really liked this video. So it added that little extra something that a normal regular drone would not, and that was a paid event for me. That was a professional job, so it's a cool thing, and that's another example where you can use this DJI Avata. In this next example here, we're going to talk about a company that makes outdoor sun decks and porches. So they basically make this little extension of your house where you can stay warm inside. In French, it's a veranda and a pergola. So I don't know how you say that in English, but anyways, I hope I translated it properly. So I pull out my drone, get everything ready. I go out of the building with my drone. I personally hid behind a glass window that was inside so you don't see me. And that's it. All I had to do is get everyone out of the place and then start flying my drone. So I could go through the little, porch and, the sun decks and the veranda and all this stuff. And it was cool. I did run into some issues once again where the signal sometimes would either start accelerating or not because of the GPS connection. And the other problem is that the drone would start doing its own thing at some point. And that's when you feel that you're losing control. It's a weird feeling, but at some point you see the drone just moving, like drifting aside like this. And that's when you know that you're losing control, at which point it crashed. Okay, so I did lose control at that very specific moment. I was going very slow. I tried to land, but the drone didn't, and it just crashed. When it crashed, it just hit a metal beam, turned on the back. Nothing happened either to the beam or to the drone. My drone's still here, doing fine. And I did not panic. I was like, okay, fine, it crashed. Because I knew I was losing control, and I knew nothing was going to happen at that speed. So that's the other cool thing about the Avata, is that even if you crash, not a big deal. Obviously, this drone is mainly and primarily a fun drone to use because you have the goggles, and if you use the motion controller or even the regular controller, it is really fun to use. Okay, you can go low to the ground. Like for example, in the mountains of Italy here, when I was coming back from a wedding, I stopped by and I just decided to go around and shoot a little bit. There was this beautiful wall made of stones, and I really wanted to fly by very quick and very close to the wall to give that impression of speed and that you're like floating like a bird. So yeah, the Avata overall is a very fun drone to use. The main key points that I think are good for professional work is the fact that it is so easy to transport. It is very compact, so I always have it in my backpack with the rest of my cameras, my Sony, my Fujis, and everything is there. The other cool thing is that it is very light, and then the setup doesn't take a lot of time. You just put on your goggles, good to go, and you start flying. One thing I would advise you to do is go beforehand, try the drone there, find out if there's any interference or if there's anything that blocks the signal, any GPS issues and stuff like that. Make sure that the neighborhood is okay with you flying such a loud and noisy drone, and that you're not like close to another building where there's other people that could complain and stuff like that. And otherwise, I think you could totally go for it and use it to have some fun. I hope these examples that I showed you throughout this video helped you either decide to get the drone or decide to go out with your drone and start shooting and maybe make some money with it. Hey, why not? If you can. I hope I answered all and every questions that you might have had about this Avata for professional work. If you have any other question, hit me up in the comment section below. If you would want me to do another video, let me know as well. And I see you like always in my next one. Take care and keep shooting. Bye.